Steve-O. We are live here, and I am just so honored to have my buddy, my brother, who is a Greek brother, right? And actually, maybe Cypriot brother.
Yeah.
Him and Dr. Steve Giannopoulos over here, who is my wife's maiden last name is Stylianou. And Dr. Steven and my wife could possibly be related. We still haven't figured that out yet, because his family also has the last name Stylianou from Cyprus. And you know, we were sitting in a pool one day over at Lifetime Fitness, and we had that conversation, and that was awesome. It was the first time I learned about that. So Dr. Steven here is incredible. He is a chiropractic neurologist. The guy is a metabolic reset expert. He knows the world of metabolic syndrome really well, and is somebody that I know that I could always count on as a brother, and somebody I can pitch and catch with all the time. So I want to introduce my buddy, Dr. Steve Giannopoulos, and I'm going to ask everyone to please share this now, because we are about to tackle COVID-19 and how it has turned the core morbidities of metabolic syndrome from chronic into an acute crisis. So Dr. Steven, welcome. And everybody, please hit that share button right now. I'm going to ask you to do that during this special time, because we know that there are many people out there that have been going through some trying times. Family members, friends, people that you love and that you care about may not be here with us anymore. And our prayers and our love go out to you first and foremost. So everything that we are talking about today, we want you to know that it is about supporting you, supporting your family, supporting your loved ones, so that we don't fall to be a next who isn't here with us today, okay, or tomorrow. All right, so please hit that share button right now. We're going to cover this. So Dr. welcome, brother.
Thank you, Roger. It's always great to have you here, and you know, you're so supportive of our profession, our patients, our families. I'll do anything to support you and anything that you're doing. And I know when you called me to do this, I knew this was going to be a great conversation to have with as many people as possible. So I also want to reiterate, share this with the people you know, because we're going to be dropping, I hope, a little bit of knowledge and wisdom that we have. And you and I are both in the New York and New Jersey area, and we don't know anyone who's not directly firsthand touched by this crisis. I talk to people, so do you, all over the country. Yeah. And you know, there are people all over the country who say, well, I don't know anyone who's affected by this. Yeah. Whereas you and I, you know, we not only know people who are affected, we know people who've been lost to this this virus. And you know, this virus has also really driven a stake of resolve into my chest, as far as the lifestyle that we live and the lifestyle that we promote, and we've been promoting our whole careers. I've been in practice for 25 years. I know you've been close to that too. But we've been saying the same thing over and over, and never has it been more relevant. You know, the lifestyle that we preached, what we try to get our patients to do, has never been more relevant than right now. Like you said, it turns something chronic. This virus has turned it into an acute crisis.
That's right, brother. That's right. That weighs heavy on my heart. You know, I mean, I was speaking to a patient, and you know, we were talking, and they happened to lose a very close loved one. And when we had this discussion, and she was speaking to me, she said, "Doc, everything that you've been speaking into me and speaking into my family for all this time resonates more now than ever. You know, there have been so many times where, you know, I may have planned my life around my health, but there have been most of the times I planned my health around my life. And when you kept stating, you got to plan your life around your health, not your health around your life, it didn't click as much as it does right now, because it is so real to me right now from losing my loved one.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my loved one did not take their health seriously. They were somebody who would eat whatever they wanted, would say the things like, hey, you're going to die somewhere. And please, I hope I don't offend anybody by saying that. So I just want to make that very clear. You're going to die sometime. There was somebody who would just eat and drink and do whatever they wanted. And they were overweight. They were carrying a lot of weight. And they were also, became diabetic, right? Metabolic syndrome, and was under 60 years of age and passed away.
Yeah.
Due to coronavirus, which, God, that hits so hard, right? Especially when people like you and I, we're always looking to empower, inspire, educate the masses of people on what they can begin to do to be prepared for a war like this. Because right now it feels like a war, right? People are locked up in their homes. They don't know what to do. The government's on, putting lockdowns. At least in New Jersey, we can't do anything, right? It's like a lockdown. I mean, we're fortunate that we can be open because we're essential providers for people, but the whole state is locked down, and people are really in this scarcity mode and in a fear state, which we both know causes a lot of sympathetic overdrive, that fight or flight response, which is not good in a situation like this. So let's have you talk into this a little bit with your wisdom, your expertise. I'd love for you to talk into our audience right now. And audience, please, friends, family, please share this, because I promise you someone is going to gain so much out of this. There could be one little nugget that we share that's going to impact their lives. So please just do me a favor. Just hit that share button right now. That's all I'm asking you to do. It just takes 1 second to hit the share button for somebody to learn and grow from this. I know it could impact a life right now. And Dr. Stephen's incredible, and he's got a lot of wisdom. So I'm going to let you speak into that a little bit, Doc.
Sure. I mean, we could have this conversation for hours, and the metabolic health of our patients and ourselves. If there's any profession where we take our what we practice what we preach, I guess is what we say. You and I, we don't ask our patients to do anything we don't do for ourselves, and never is what we ask so incredibly difficult or complicated or require massive amounts of willpower. But what people find is that what we're asking them to do is not difficult. It's just different. And you have to have a reason to do something different. And if in the past that reason to do something different was not compelling enough, meaning, you might say, oh, well, I'm only 30 years old. And yeah, I know I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing that. But I'm having fun and everything's great. And it was good for my mother and it was good for my father. And they came before me. And look, they lived till they were 90. And if I have to die at 80 instead of 90, well, then so be it. I'm only 30 and I can't think 50 years ahead. And that's basically the conversation we've been having with our patients who come in overweight, high blood pressure, hormonal problems, can't sleep, all of those what we now are calling comorbidities. And we'll get to the comorbidity thing in just a second. But, now it's those things. It's the elevated blood sugar. It's the pre-diabetes. It's the 24 or more % body fat. It's all of those things that now mean life or death for people. Because you and I both, people are saying, yeah, only the people over 80 who are dying. Well, my mother's 83. She lives a mile away from me in Park Ridge, and I don't want to see her go, So I don't want to hear about your age. That's irrelevant. Of course, the younger you are, the better the chances are that you'll do fine with this. But with the comorbidities, out of New York State, the comorbidities are 80%, meaning 80% of the deaths have one or more of 10 listed comorbidities, which you and I consider to be almost end-stage disease, right?
Yeah.
So when they talk about and the number one is hypertension, number two is diabetes, number three is hyperlipidemia or blood or cholesterol and triglyceride dysregulation in their blood. And we don't even know if it's the triglycerides and the lipids that are the problem, or if it's the medication that they're taking for those things. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, but those are 3 disease states, and all of the other ones, the other 7 are also disease states. No one's checking vitamin D levels, vitamin A levels. No one's checking nutritional status. No one's checking these other things that you and I would consider also to be comorbidities.
Absolutely.
I think that other 20% would pretty much fill up with all of those people who are just suboptimal, who just don't know. When we talk about blood sugar and diabetes, 1 in 3 Americans is pre-diabetic or diabetic.
Yep.
That's 100 million people.
Yeah.
And it's estimated that nearly 70% of them have no idea. They don't even know. They haven't even been checked. So this really brings it to the forefront. And I just got to tell you the story about a patient I had today. So a lot of us are doing some virtual work, just reaching out to our patients because we have more time, the ones who we know and we care about. And we just want to reach out and say, hey, how are things going? Is there anything I could do to support you? So I had a conversation with this gentleman, and he was very excited to talk to me because he reversed his type 2 diabetes, and he got down to under 18% body fat from being well over 30% body fat. So he, turned himself around dramatically, got off of all of his medications over the last year. And he wanted to thank me for just making him ready for this. But he had another sense of urgency to set the appointment today. His sense of urgency was, well, his question was, he goes, Doc, I'm not an essential service. I have my own business. There's a demand. I'm getting calls. I'm opening up. And I said, all right. I said, I understand that, but check with the state, check with what the laws and the rules are, because you don't want to do something that's going to put people at risk, right? I mean, this is the kind of thing where you say, I'm not at risk, you're not at risk, my children are not at risk, but then somebody's going to come into contact with somebody at risk, and that's going to overwhelm an emergency room. And no one wants to be responsible for somebody's grandmother dying.
Yeah.
So, but he was frustrated, and his frustration came out of the fact that he had been ready to apply for his financial assistance from the government from the moment it was released, and his bank did not communicate with him in any way. They had no portal, they had no message on their website, they had nothing for him to do. And the first message came up after it was announced there was no more money left. And I don't want to announce the name of the bank, because I have a feeling that Capital One might get upset if I say something that it was them. They really need to answer, because this particular person is looking to reopen his business. And he turned to me, he goes, look, I understand about that person's grandmother, but he goes, I got a family to feed. He goes, do you know what it's like to not be able to take care of your family? And I thought about it, and I just can't imagine the position that he finds himself in, where he's, has no one to communicate with at a big bank. He has several employees. He didn't want to let them go. He's been carrying them for all of this time, hoping that he was going to get the reimbursement from the state. And he's at a crisis point. He can't think of somebody, some esoteric, some person that he'll run into in his life whose grandmother might die from being in contact with him because he reopened his business.
Yeah. That's
not where his mind is at. His mind is at, me and my family are in crisis and in danger. So there's a lot to unpack here, and no one's going to have all the answers. I always talk about the models that they're using. These scientists are using models to predict things. They're saying, if we don't do this, X, Y, Z is going to happen. We're going to have this many hospitalizations. We're going to need this many ventilators. We're going to need this many body bags and grave sites and whatever they're talking about. But they're not basing it on science. A model is a tool used by a scientist in order to persuade us. A model is, by definition, always 100% wrong, but useful sometimes.
Yeah.
That's why they come up with them. But but they're never correct. There's way too many, just like the human body. There's just too many variables. There's too many things to consider. Nobody can predict the future. They can't predict the weather in 3 days using these models. And we're expected these same type of scientists, again, a different field, but the same idea. The expert who's never seen this before is supposed to be able to tell us what the future will hold if we don't do X, Y, and Z. But now we're seeing the real catastrophe, right? There's the catastrophe of the emergency rooms being overrun. There's a catastrophe of the person who's depressed and cannot take care of his own family, and everything that falls in between there. So, this is now you and I, we're in the business of taking care of the structural health of our patients, the biochemical health of our patients. We're now jumping on the phone and on Zoom and on these formats to get involved into the mental health of our patients. I'm not a mental health care provider, but I'm telling you, I'm a mental health care provider right now, and I'm doing a damn good job of it. But I'm frustrated too, as are you.
Yeah, very. And right now it's really been just calming that fear. Calming the fear, and I really believe that the conversation must shift from the strength of the virus to the strength of the host, right? And that's where the conversation really needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm right there. Look, I'm praying for everybody. I'm on the, just like you are, and we're there. We're here to support people. We're here to calm people's fears. Right now, it's real, right? People are home. They're fearful. Some people have zero money. They lost their jobs. Unemployment isn't paying anybody yet. Their PPP, if they're business owners, hasn't come in yet, right? I mean, ours hasn't. The fact that we're open and even able to support and cover our staff's payroll is a big deal in New Jersey, right? With everything that we're going through, especially being in Bergen County and so on. So I get it, and I get the anxiety, that's happening everywhere, and I get the fear. But I always say that when we're in the state, this is where we got to turn into faith. And when we have high faith, fear is low. And when fear is high, where's your faith? Mm-hmm. Right? It's like non-existent. So look, this is the time where you and I, man, we're Christian men. And for us, it's Easter was just here, right? Yeah. For me, it's like the resurrection is running through my veins. It's running through my body, and it's always with me, right? And it's and I have to be able to trust in God in these moments, and to show the people who are in fear opportunities on how to get healthier. I want to just share something here, and right here, when I'm just going to share this on the screen, if that's okay with you, Doc.
Sure.
So where it is, share the screen here, and when I go into this right here, and this is from the New York Post, and it's talking about exactly what we talked about, right? Look, 89% right here of people who have died in New York of COVID-19, right? Mm-hmm. Chronic illness. When you begin to take a look at this, 89% of them had chronic illness as well, which are the core morbidities that we've been talking about. That metabolic syndrome has been the linchpin for. So when we're talking about that, it's like people in this country, and you could see when you come up here to the top, it says this: American junk food diets make us even more vulnerable to the coronavirus. And it's just a fact, mm-hmm. It's a fact, and this is what's happening. And then when I take a look at this next article that I want to show here, which really hits home, because this is somebody who just got married, right? Just got married, wanted to share their life with this spouse of theirs. And when you take a look at this, it is just so disheartening when you see this. And she's a widow at 31 years old.
Yeah.
And here they are. And we know that people who are overweight, and I've heard you talk about it just a second ago, 24% body fat, right? Yeah. People have high body mass index. They got more weight on their body than needs to be, right? Too much weight on the frame of their body. When we take a look at people who have high visceral fat, that dangerous fat, that's leading to stroke, heart attacks, some serious things, right? This is the scary part for people, but there's solutions that are out there. And I know you have solutions. I know that we have solutions through our Sprint Set system as well. And, you know, we've seen people coming off of diabetic medications. We've seen people coming off hypertension medications. We've seen people coming off of many different medications when we work hand in hand along with their medical doctors as well to do it safely, right? But by following specific protocols that are out there and having somebody who's going to support them, coach them, monitor them, love on them, and show them on how to be on track. I know that people have done a lot of yo-yos out there, but, you know, working with people like myself and Dr. Steven, you don't see those kind of things because you have the support for them. You have, you know, you're making sure that they're guided and that you're creating something customized for an individual. And there are just some basic principles that you could begin to apply today.
Mm-hmm.
At zero cost, right? At zero cost. Like if you just brought in intermittent fasting into your life, right? Get your body into what we call a state of autophagy, right? You know, right there's a golden nugget, right? Eat within an 8-hour window, and, you know, for 16 hours, you don't eat. So if you ate at 11, finish eating by 7, there's just one method you could begin to apply today, right? Zero cost. We're not here to try to hook you and get you to do any of our systems. But what we're here to do is share with you ways that you can go away winning today, right? Winning, you know, instead of, you know, eating the fast foods, well, cook at home. You know what you're putting into your body. Build a healthy life, right?
Yeah, you know, it's funny that, you know, Roger, people sometimes will say, oh, this doctor says he can cure diabetes.
Yeah.
And I always say to my patients, if you ask any doctor worth anything in their education, if you ask the question, hey, doc, is there a cure for diabetes, type 2 diabetes? The answer is clearly no. I, the doctor, cannot cure you, the patient, of diabetes. But if I ask a different question, hey, doc, can I cure myself of diabetes? The answer is absolutely yes. No problem. Here's exactly how you do it. And that's what Sprint Set does. That's what I do in my office. And what people don't need to hear another doctor tell them, well, you know, you just got to eat right and exercise. You should lose a few pounds. Yeah. If you're a patient and you walk into your doctor's office and you go through a whole bunch of tests and your insurance company just spent X thousands of dollars on, and that's the advice you get on lifestyle, you should drop a few pounds. You should exercise a little bit more. You should eat a little bit better. And then here, take these pills. If that's what you get, you should be angry. You should be very, very angry because now it's life and death. It used to be, yeah, it's life and death between 70 and 85 years old before. Well, no, now it's life and death now. And guess what? Our medical profession, God bless them, what they're going through right now is something that you know, they're going to have even less time. They had no time before. They're going to have even less time to talk to people about what it really takes to make change in your life. So they are in crisis mode all the time. The medical profession has already chosen to take a pass on preventing any of this stuff.
That's right.
If their medications don't prevent the diabetes, if their medications don't bring the hypertension down, they're not going to get involved in anything else. And our profession, we have the doctors, we have the licensed doctors with the right scope of practice in all 50 states and the proper education for basically the chiropractic profession to take over the metabolic health of our patients. We take care of their structural health. When there's a structural interference with how the nervous system and the body communicate, we call that a subluxation, right? Something about your structure is interfering. And that's been the basis of our profession for 100 years. But in the last 20 to 40 years, what we've seen is this interference, this metabolic interference with our biochemistry, with our immune chemistry. And we understand it. We know how to remove that interference. That's what chiropractors do. We remove interference with optimal nervous system function. Well, if you have elevated blood sugar, you don't have optimal nervous system function. If you are not sleeping properly at night, you do not have optimal metabolic function, biochemical function. Matter of fact, we now know, we can say with certainty that sleep deprivation or poor sleeping patterns can cause Alzheimer's. Now, think about that statement. The research shows that you can say it. You don't have to say it's correlated to or it's associated with. It's clear. It causes Alzheimer's.
That's right.
Right? And what can mess your sleep up more than a hormonal system related to blood sugar, cortisol, insulin? Nothing's going to disrupt your sleep more than that. And the stress associated with turning on the news every day to find out more about this particular crisis that we're in. So it's really a call to action for everyone listening to this. Not only do you have to share this video with your friends on your social media, but you have to make a decision that this is the time, this is the wake-up call to say the standard American lifestyle is not acceptable, and I want some help to get out of it. And I've never seen, and neither have you, I've never seen a chronic lifestyle-based challenge. And let's be clear what those lifestyle-based challenges are. They are the top 3 things that are taking us all out: cancer, Alzheimer's, and some kind of cardiovascular, obesity, type 2 diabetes related disease. Those are the 3 things that are taking us all out over the age of 40. Okay. And those are the things that are taking us out because of this virus. Those are the things. Yep. It's just happening sooner when you layer the virus on top of that.
89% thus far.
Yeah. 89%. So we don't really need another doctor telling us, well, your mother has type 2 diabetes, your brother has type 2 diabetes, it must be genetic. Nothing about type 2 diabetes is genetic.
Nothing.
The only thing that is genetic is that you're human, and humans are going to go into a category. I'm going to go towards the diabetes side first based on my genetics, or I'm going to go to the heart disease side based on my genetics, or I'm going to go to the cancer side based on my genetics. But it's the environment your body is in that will determine one of those 3 paths for all humans, because that's what happens to all humans in a crappy environment. And it's the standard American lifestyle that is the crappy environment. But we can change that and still be happy and still. You saw me on Facebook this past Sunday. I posted about 12.5 videos of my family sharing our Greek Easter celebration. And you'll look at that food and say, oh my God, look at this feast that these people are having. And I would say 75 to 80% of that food is absolutely wonderful, nutritious food that anyone and everyone would enjoy. And yeah, there's a couple of things in there you don't want to have too much of, but in moderation, right? If you're getting it right 80% of the time, the 20% is not going to kill you.
That's right. That's right. And you're so spot on with that, with all of it, everything that you said, every word, I'm in 100% agreement. Right. When we always talk, we talk about, physical stress, chemical stress, emotional stress, that today we have thoughts, toxins, traumas, and technology, which we're all on today, that begin to affect our health. So, when we think about the thoughts, what you think about, you bring about. So how can we begin to create rituals that'll begin to clear our minds? Like today, I was speaking to a patient who she's somebody who went through our Sprint Set system. She was elated. Her life insurance got put on a premium life insurance policy right now, doing great. Life is good. But after this whole thing with the coronavirus, all of a sudden she started going into a stressful state. It's been affecting her sleep, right? So we had to begin to work on that today. And, us in our center, we're a complete holistic wellness model. And, I bring in some other techniques like NET or best techniques, or bring in some NLP or color therapy and sound therapy. And some chiropractors out there would go, oh, this guy is crazy. No, I bring in a vitalistic approach that is going to help the individual. Right. So I started doing some of this work with her, and she goes, my breath that was feeling my chest feeling so like constricted, and I felt so tight, and everything was just so tight, doc. And this was even after the adjustment that I gave her. all of a sudden she just released because the emotions began to release. And the second that that happened, her whole body went into a state of relaxation. And she goes, thank you. I believe that tonight I'm going to be able to sleep because my shoulders aren't up to my ears. And she was just in this state because she's worried about herself. She's worried about her husband. She's worried about her child. You know, she's worried about what's happening. She's worried about her work. She's worried about finances. She's worried about everything, right? And it's having the resources, and Dr. Stephen and myself are people that you can lean on at any point in time, because that's what we're here for. That's why we're doing this. That's why we took time away from our families right now to be here, to be a voice of good for you. And we're hoping that you begin to not only listen and take that in as information, but begin to apply the knowledge that we begin to instill. So, you know, some simple things that you could begin to do would be breath work, right? So if you're holding on to, you know, the message that I sent out today on my daily wellness tip today was about stop whatever you're doing right now for the next 60 seconds. And all I want you to do is breathe in love into your body. So when I talk about love, it's about loving yourself, right? Because who do they always say put the oxygen mask on first on an airplane? You, right? So that you could be enough for everybody else. So if you want to fly, right, like a plane flies, you got to begin to first love yourself. Fly stands for FLY, first love yourself. One way we can do it is by beginning to instill rituals. Stop, slow down to speed up. Stop for a second, no matter what you're doing, stop and take a big deep breath all the way in and out. Keep doing that for 60 seconds. Now you can incorporate box breathing, you can incorporate Wim Hof breathing, you can incorporate any type of different types of, you know, belly breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, any breathing that you want, but just stop for a second and breathe. You know, I was doing some work here, getting ready for what we're going to be doing here. And then I was on, a buddy of mine gave me a call, Stephen, and my baby came in the doors with my wife and she goes, Daddy, I'm gonna go for a walk. She's 2 years old, little Skylar, right? So I said, hey, brother, I said, I got to go. And then I said, all right, I'll just get back to this. Dr. Steve and I will just roll tonight, you know? And I went for the walk with Skylar and my wife, right? And actually, I think Skylar actually just walked in. What you doing, baby? Oh, so she's bringing her, here, let me just show you really quick. Bringing her doll.
There's a little angel.
Her doll to the table so that the baby can get adjusted. She gets it, right? So she gets it.
That's
now,
great.
I'll go to that in a second. Steve, I'm just going to let you talk for a second just to make her happy.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, go right ahead. No, and it's funny because
right, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
you make things that are important for you right now. Steven, you go on for 1 second while I do this, okay?
Yeah, no, I'm going to come at this from the opposite angle. I have 3 teenagers, and part of the way that I get to relax is by getting out of the house and away from them fighting with each other, you know, because all teenagers are sitting there yelling at each other and saying, hey, you know, stop touching this and give me the, you know, it's my turn for this and it's my turn for that. I needed to get out of there. So I came into my office here just a mile away in Woodcliff Lake, and I had a minute to breathe. But we're going to go home tonight. We're going to have dinner. We're going to probably play cards. And you know, one thing I introduced, we started playing cards, and we have the chips, the poker chips.
I love it.
And they're listed as, you know, $1, $5, $10, $50, $100. And you know, my daughter's got a pair of 2s and she's raising $100. So I said, wait a minute, everybody go get $5 from your room. We're going to play for money, and we're going to have it 5 cents, 10 cents. So now you go to raise 25 cents and they're folding with, you know, 2 pair. they got to learn a little bit about money, right?
Yeah.
So those are just the funny things that happen. And you know, I told my kids, I said, look, you're never going to forget this time. You're never, ever going to forget it. And your children and your grandchildren are going to ask you one day, they're going to say, what did you do during this time? And please have something to say.
That's right.
Use this time to learn a language. Use this time to read a book that you wouldn't have read that may even influence what you do for a living. Use this time with your family and with yourself to do something you would have never done and have it have meaning, right? So that's kind of how I could have that conversation with, you know, a senior, a junior, and a seventh grader. But you know, it's like you said, just bringing attention to your breath, just bringing attention to your sleep, just bringing attention to the choices you make when you're sitting in front of Netflix, binging on the Ozarks. Bring attention to it, because you're more likely to make a conscious decision that's a better one.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
It's that kind of simplicity that can mean everything.
That's right.
And then when you gain momentum, because really, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. You gotta start. Sometimes you're just so overwhelmed. You're like, you know what? I'm 60 pounds overweight. My A1C is, you know, I'm in the diabetic range. They got me taking these pills. I'm so stressed out. You know, where do I begin? Right? Where do I begin? Well, it begins by just doing one thing. But having a ritual Monday through Friday should be boring for everyone. It should be the same thing. I get up at the same time. I go to bed at the same time. I pay attention to my emails at this time. I pay attention to my exercise at this time. I pay attention to whatever at that time. But if it's the same every time, just like you wake up and you brush your teeth at the same time every day, your toothbrush is always in the same spot. You do it the same time every day. You never have to think about it. If your exercise were like that, if your prayer was like that, if your breath work was like that, if your shopping time was like that, it would just be ritualized. You would get those 5 or 6 days a week in, and it would be the same. And it's incredibly easy. Incredibly easy.
That's right. That's right. You know, some people, they don't even hydrate. They don't even drink water, right? So out of sight, out of mind, right? So like, carry it with me everywhere I go, right?
Yep.
See, it's like it's here, right?
Always there.
It's always here. Here's, you know, if I have tea, right? My wife brings me tea. I mean, like, I got a great wife, so you know, she knows I'm in here. She's always refilling me. And
you hit the lottery with the Cypriot. I can tell you that.
I'm just lucky, right? I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm not lucky, right? So, but hydration, right? It's like so important, right? So important. And people don't do it, you know, and they hydrate themselves. They think that they're hydrating, but instead they're poisoning their bodies with you know, fructose, right? Yeah. Which is what is a big challenge here when it comes to metabolic syndrome and what the challenges that we have going on in here, right? Creating a lot of, you know, insulin resistance and so on, right? We have a challenge, and this is where a big part of the problem is. And while we have this, you know, these last like 20 minutes here, Dr. Stephen, I'd like you to talk into that a bit, right? From your standpoint of talking into that specific conversation.
Let's just dive in right just on the word fructose.
Yeah.
Fructose is a kind of sugar that's typically found in fruits and vegetables, mostly in fruits, right? They're most abundant, but in vegetables and grains as well. And fructose is a kind of sugar that we are not supposed to use as fuel. So, for example, if you eat an apple, that apple has fructose in it, and the apple has fiber. So the fiber carries the fructose away from your small intestines in order to reach your large intestines, so the plants in your large intestines, called bacteria, can feed on the fructose, right? So that's the reason for fructose, to feed the beneficial bacteria in your gut to make you immunologically healthy, right? That's the mechanism. However, where in the world can you live where fruit grows more than 3 months out of the year? If you're outside of 15 degrees within the limitations of the equator, if you're 15 degrees outside of the equator, which is 85% of the world's population, fruit grows 3 months out of the year. So why are we eating fructose in the form of fruit 12 months out of the year. Why in New Jersey would I want to have a banana in January? All right. So is a banana bad for me? No. But we're overloaded with fructose because we then take something like corn and we remove the fiber and we take the corn syrup, the fructose, and we put it in all of our processed foods, all of our chips and all of our pastas and all of our breads and cakes and cookies and sports drinks and all of this stuff. And the fructose does not make it to the large intestines. Instead, it gets mainlined into your liver. And your liver then becomes what's called a fatty liver. And guess what? The way we measure fatty liver is with a blood test and two of the markers, AST and ALT, in particular ALT. When I graduated from school 25 years ago, the upper limit of ALT was 25, of AST and ALT was 25. Now it's common to see it in the upper 30s, 40s. I've even seen it at 51 or 52. And in my opinion, anything above 25 can be considered a fatty liver. And now that hepatitis C is kind of going away, the number one cause for a liver transplant in the next 10 years is going to be fatty liver. That's from right. All the 100 million Americans who are diabetic and pre-diabetic. So this gets even deeper because now the fructose tries to get through the liver. It creates this fatty liver situation. You cannot detox. You wind up inflamed. And sugar, see, glucose, the other sugar, goes to a part of the brain right here for executive function, right? When you're in college, you have brain food. It goes to the part of the brain that makes you human and kind of gives it fuel. But fructose does not go there. Fructose goes to the same part of your brain as drugs and alcohol. Cocaine and alcohol goes more to the temporal side of the frontal lobe and will feed those addictive centers. So when you hear somebody say, I'm addicted to ice cream, I'm addicted to this, I'm addicted to that, it's because that fructose is feeding their addiction centers. And this is not by accident. If you work for Nestle or any other of the big food companies, Gatorade or whatever, you know that if you get somebody addicted to your product, you're golden, right? Your product, you're going to have a loyal customer forever. So that's just a fructose model that can explain so many things about the fatty liver, which can also be extrapolated to elevated uric acid. Which is known more commonly in the realm of gout, but is also known as being a big problem for basically systemic inflammation and pain. And we can go on and talk about cholesterol and triglycerides and where that goes. So please don't insult me by saying, well, this fatty liver and type 2 diabetes, really, it's genetic. Look at your mother, look at your father. Well, you know what? Look at your mother and your father for the same exact lifestyle that you have. If it was good enough for my father, look, my father, I adored my father. I idolized my father. My father was a smoker. What do you think I wanted to do when I was 12 years old? All I wanted to do was smoke. Intellectually, I knew smoking was bad for you, but it was good for my father. So I wanted to smoke. So if I'm going to sit around and have a six-pack, with my dad, or if I'm going to sit around and not exercise with my dad and binge watch television, that's special time with my dad. So you become emotionally attached to that behavior. That's what we're transferring to our children, not necessarily genetics.
Yeah. Yep. And, and this is exactly it. Like if you're looking at your hemoglobin A1C and you're wondering, hey, why is this happening? Everything that Dr. Steve was just talking about, spot on, right? I mean, spot on. When we talk about metabolic syndrome, spot on. I mean, this is it right here. I mean, he just gave you the science lesson right here, right? Spot on.
And wait, the elephant in the room here. I'm sorry, Dr. Raj. The elephant in the room here is, why is a chiropractor talking to me about my diabetes?
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, because your inflamed body aches all over and you want me to fix it. Yeah. And you're hurting. Oh, your neck hurts. Oh, and I get headaches. Oh, and my shoulders and my back, and it's on the left side and it's on the right side, and it's systemic. Yeah. It's systemic. And if I send you to your doctor, to deal with your metabolic poor health, and you don't meet the threshold for the medication they're going to give you for the rest of your life, which solves none of these problems.
It masks it.
It masks it, and then what? We just let you go? No, I'm going to take charge.
That's
I'm going to take charge of that case.
Amen.
So, and you do the same thing, and now more than ever do we need it.
Yeah, more than ever. Right now, you know, your health is your greatest investment. It's not an expenditure, and I hope in that you're unblinded right now to this, right? And that, you know, you're not turning a deaf ear right now, right, or a blind eye to it, but that you're like, yes, you know, this is something that I need to do, and it has to be something that I do immediately to put my health first, because we do have people coming in with a lot of oxidative stress, a lot of cellular inflammation going on in their body, and we have to tackle it, because what you do outside of our offices affects the results that we also get inside of our offices and with your health as a chiropractor. So you have to look at this. This is obesity is the linchpin, you know, to what is going on here. And right now, 70% of our country approximately, right, is overweight. Is overweight in the United States of America. Approximately 70% is overweight.
More than half of those are obese.
That's right.
More than half are obese. Not less than half, more than half.
More than half. Yeah. And that's a big problem here. So I love that I have a brother of mine that we can go back and forth on this, and we can add value to to people that are listening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who's on here, right? Simple solution, right? Cut down on your sugar.
For sure.
Carbohydrates, right? Cut down on those refined carbohydrates. Cut down on those processed foods. Eat food made by God, you know? Really, it's not rocket science, right? But you have to begin to put yourself first. And yeah, it may not be what you call easy, but it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's not difficult, it's different. As you heard Dr. Stephen say earlier, right? It's different. What are you worth? What are you worth? Like, right? I mean, I had a conversation with somebody, and she's got a child, and I said, you know, why do you want to lose this weight? For her, it had nothing to do with her diabetes. It had nothing to do that she had hypertension. It had to do with something that blew my mind away, right? Forget the health condition. It had to do with that there was a party going on, and she was going to have to be around friends that she hasn't seen in years. And she said, oh, I want to lose the weight for that, because I want to look good in this dress. So it baffles me why, when somebody gets to a state of diabetes, hypertension, renal diseases, coronary artery disease, have strokes, why health still isn't a number one, where they think that the answer is in this pill, potion, lotion, that it's an outside-in process, and it never is. It's always an inside-in, and that's why I said you got to begin to fly. You got to first love yourself, put yourself first, and invest in your health, and get to the root cause of the problem, and stop masking these problems as if you're driving your car, your check engine light comes on, you take a black piece of tape and put it over it. It's not the solution. You got to dive deep. And
I don't mind a little vanity. I got to tell you, when my wife walks into a room after 20 years of being married, I want to look lean. I want my belly flat. I want at least a 2-pack.
Yeah.
I want to look good for my spouse. I want to.
I'm okay with that too.
I'm vain, and I use that as motivation. I got no problem with that, but it also helps that I feel great. I wake up great, full of energy. I can play basketball against my 6'4" son and put a hurting on him. Those are all very important things to me. And turning 50 this year. And it's something that I hold dear, because I want to put a hurting on my son when I'm 60, when I'm 65, maybe even 70. And by then he's probably going to be 6'5", 6'6". So I'm going to have to work on that. But yeah, vanity's okay. Vanity is okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. It absolutely is okay. People want to look good. Of course, they have events that they have weddings coming up. They have the summers coming up. You want to get into your summer bodies. Right now, many people can't even put on their bathing suits because they know that they've been eating like crazy right now at home and doing things that they shouldn't be doing. I get that. And I'm all for that too. But for me, when I see somebody who comes in and they have a lot of major health conditions and they're on lots of medications, the next thing you see that they're on 10. For me, it's like, all right, listen, your why right there, like here it is, it's right here. Let's dive in. But the why ends up always being something different, right? And I get it. Whatever's going to be your motivating factor.
Hey, Raj, you and I both belong to the same gym, right? And this is Bergen County, and it's a very competitive environment too. And it's funny because people think I have to exercise more and eat less, exercise more, and it becomes this driving force. And it's actually not true. Eat less, exercise more guarantees failure. That's the show, The Biggest Loser model, right? We're going to eat 600 calories a day. We're going to work out 6 hours a day. We're going to lock ourselves into a hotel, and it's going to be a race to the bottom. We're going to lose 200 pounds, get off of all our medications. We're going to look great. And then 100% of us are going to gain all of our weight back, not because we're weak, but because the system of eat less, exercise more guarantees failure because of what it actually destroys your metabolic health.
That's right.
And most people think they need more exercise. The truth is, the amount of exercise you need is not much in the sense of intensity. So I can't tell you how many people I know who are women especially, between the age of 40 and 55 or 60, and they look fantastic. Yeah. They're doing 5 days a week of HIIT classes, high intensity interval training, working out like crazy, flat stomach. They look beautiful. Everything looks great. You talk to them and they're falling apart. Yeah. Their hormones are a wreck.
I agree.
They're not sleeping. They're overtraining. They're getting injured. There's so many. And it's like you think you have to do more and more and more. And the opposite is true. The opposite is true. You have to eat maybe less frequently, but not less. And if you want to lose fat, you better eat fat.
That's right.
And when it comes to exercise, the majority should be what you and I would call zone 2 exercise, or the long duration, low intensity exercise, with very few spurts of the high intensity stuff to make the long duration stuff more efficient, for you to stay lean. So, there are things to know. You said before, it's not rocket science, but it has become the new rocket science because our standard American lifestyle and our televisions are telling us exactly what to do wrong.
I agree.
So
I agree, brother. 100%. I mean, in our sprint set system, for example, like the exercise that we have people doing is walk.
Yeah.
We have them walk, literally. Just that's it. All I want you to do is walk. They go, what do you mean? Well, all I want you to do is walk.
Yeah.
And they'll do that. We run sprints and sets, and and by the time they're at day 50, like a typical woman is down at a minimum of typically about 25 pounds, right? And a male is down more than that. But this is walking and just eating our specific protocols.
Right.
And by the time they get into their last phase, the last 21 days, now they're starting to identify what their preferred foods are, cautionary avoid are for their own body. Because there are no two people that are exactly alike, just like there are no two fingerprints. Beginning to identify who you are and what works for you. And look, we know that when you do any sort of system out there, what happens is that people can fall off, right? And they fall off for many reasons. Most of it is emotional, right? And having somebody there that's going to support and get you right back on track is extremely important. And, we pride ourselves on being able to do that daily, and for masses of people, which is important to us, right? And I know that, you have that same philosophy, and you and I have been talking about a lot of collaboration and stuff, and you're incredible, right? So I love you, man. I love everything that you stand for. And together is how we make a bigger impact in this world, because I can't do it by myself. My team can't do it by themselves. Like, we have doctors all over the country. Like we have, all over, like in different states right now. And a lot of them, like, a lot of the doctors who are part of it. And, these guys are all taking a stand to make a bigger impact in humanity. And right now there couldn't be a better time for that, especially with what we're seeing, how a virus that we are running from, which we know that's when we look at that is what we call level 2. When we begin to take a look at the different approaches to disease, right? Like level 1, right, is the treatment of disease, which is what's happening, right? You have a disease, many of these people are on medications, they're doing their medical approach. Level 2 is preventing disease. And that's what people are doing now in a sense of saying, okay, I'm going to stay away. I'm going to put a mask on, which for me, yeah, that's some prevention, but not complete, right? And you have level 3, which is let's build a strong, healthy host, which is about the promotion of health, because we can't keep running away from every virus. We were given 300 trillion viruses that we're dealing with on a daily basis and 60 trillion bacteria that we deal with regularly. So we can't be running. We have to be able to say, let's just work on becoming an even better iteration of who we are right now. I don't expect you to go from where you are looking like Superman overnight. It's a process. It's a journey. It's not an event. So we have to do this in a methodical way with a strategy in place to be able to do that. So we've given you some tips on what you could begin to do today, right? From eating better, understanding your body, to thinking better, to breathing, to moving, lightly, like walking and going outside, enjoying the fresh air. You'll see some of my Facebook videos that I talk about listening to the birds and feeling the wind, and just connecting with nature and planting your feet on the ground and looking at beautiful, I look at like this beautiful river that runs through here. These are things like I walk down there with my children. I do those things, like do things like that. Find moments to be still and breathe. Sleeping, extremely important, but getting ready for sleep. Like, all right, let's set the tone. Let's calm down the lights. Let's shut off electronics a couple hours before bed. Let's, connect with our loved ones. Let's make sure that when we go into our bedroom that, things are getting really dark and we have things that like blackout blinds, that they use a scent that works for us, like an essential oil, like lavender, which is calming. Might take a bath, right? Or take a warmer shower to get you relaxed. Turn down the temperature in your room a couple degrees before you go to bed, right? I mean, these are the type of things. Get the right pillow, like our good friend who creates the sleep nest, right? Pillow, right?
The neck nest.
And it's awesome. It's a great pillow, right? So anybody who wants that, just go to necknest.com. If you actually just put all capital Sprint Set, you'll get a discount on this whole program as well as a sleep program. He's great, our buddy Peter, Dr. Peter Martoni. So, these are things that you can begin to apply into your life immediately. Hydration, we talked about that. Hydrate your body. If it's not around, you're not going to be doing it. So keep it in sight so that when it empties out, you just refill it and do it again. I go by, work your best on drinking. Work on getting to half your body weight in ounces of water. It's something that, I tell everybody, do your best to get there, but something is better than nothing.
Right.
Something is better than zero. If you're eating bread every single day, like, hey, let's work on minimizing that, right? Start cutting that down. So it's not like going from all in, to all out, it's just like, look, work, it's a process. And if you need support, and you want somebody to guide you, that's why you have people like myself and Dr. Steven here with specific protocols that can help you do that, and the knowledge and the teams to be able to do things like that. Right, Doc?
Absolutely. You said it great. I mean, we're just trying to mimic the natural environment we're supposed to be living in, because we've spent the last couple of 100 years making our environment very different from what we had for thousands of years. And what we had for thousands of years is what our genetics requires to express health. And we kind of pulled ourselves away from that. And all the things you're talking about are, because I don't want to go back to 10,000 years ago to be healthy. I like my hardwood floors in my comfortable home, but I want to mimic a few of the things, a few of the environmental stressors our ancestors had that actually promoted health. Yeah. And there's never been a time in human history where we had unlimited access to endless empty calories with a refrigerator and a pantry full of food to wake up to. That's never been a part of the human experience. And what you said before about time restricted eating is just such a easy way. It's so easy, and it can make such a difference. So then you add a couple of sleep habits, a couple of other habits here and there. Next thing you know, your life is turning around. And I can tell you right now, at 49, going on 50, I'm doing things physically and mentally I haven't done since I was 24 years old. I truly feel like, especially since I did have some health challenges in my 30s, I really feel like I've turned the clock back, and it didn't take that much effort.
Yeah, you're incredible, brother. You have an incredible family. I love it, and you have such a great family as well. I'm really grateful for our friendship and the things that we're doing together right now. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to end this call with a prayer.
Please,
if that works, that works for you, brother.
For sure.
Let me just place this on the screen here. Please pray and share this. All right. Okay. Dear God, today we put on the full armor to guard our lives against attack. We put on the belt of truth to protect against lies and deception. We put on the breastplate of righteousness to protect our hearts from the temptations we battle. We put the gospel of peace on our feet, so we are ready to take your light wherever you send us this day. We choose to walk in the peace and freedom of your spirit and not be overcome with fear and anxious thoughts. We take up your shield of faith that will extinguish all of the darts and the threats hurled our way by the enemy. We believe in your power to protect us and choose to trust in you. We put on the helmet of salvation, which covers our minds and our thoughts, reminding us we are the children of the day, forgiven, set free, saved by the grace of you, Lord. We take up the Lord. We take up the sword of the Spirit, your very word, the one offensive weapon given to us for battle, which has the power to demolish strongholds alive, active, and sharper than any double-edged sword. We ask for your help in remembering to put on your full armor every day, Lord, for you give us all that we need to stand firm in this world. Now, Lord, please forgive us for the times we've been unprepared, that we've been too busy to care, or trying to fight and wrestle in our own strength. Thank you that we never have to fight alone, as you are constantly at work on our behalf, shielding, protecting, strengthening, exposing the deeds of the darkness, and bringing to light what needs to be known, and covering us from cruel attacks we face even when we're unaware. In the powerful name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
So,
amen. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for today, Dr. Stephen. You are incredible, and I know we will circle back and do more of these together. If you'll be a guest here again, I hope so.
More than happy. More than happy. I loved it. I really enjoyed it, Roger. Thank you so much for thinking about me.
And everybody, please give Dr. Stephen some love, some likes, and if you have any comments, we could always go back and circle back and answer them. God bless you all. Thank you.
God bless you too. Bye-bye.